Parents, when did your child's partner win you over? I didn't want to like Elliot. When my daughter Abigail brought him home during her junior year of college, all I saw was trouble. Tattoo sleeves, motorcycle boots, and that easy charm that screamed heartbreak waiting to happen. My husband Dave warmed to him immediately. Men and their motorcycles, but I kept my distance. Mom, please give him a chance. Abigail pleaded after that first awkward dinner. He's studying engineering. The tattoos are just art. I'm just looking out for you, I said. Though what I meant was, you're too young to know what's good for you. For 2 years, I maintained what Dave called my polite frost. Whenever Elliot visited, I noticed things. How he always washed dishes without being asked. How he looked at Abigail when she spoke as if memorizing her words. But I refused to be won over by surface gestures. When they announced their engagement, after graduation, I smiled tightly and said, "Congratulations." While thinking, too young, too soon, too different. The weekend before their wedding, I found myself alone with Elliot in our kitchen. Abigail and Dave had gone to pick up her dress from Final Alterations. "Need help with dinner?" he asked, rolling up his sleeves. "I'm fine," I said automatically. Then, unable to help myself, "Tell me why I should believe you're good enough for her." He set down the glass he was holding. "I'm not," he said simply, "but I'll spend my life trying to be." I wanted to dismiss this as more charm, but something in his voice stopped me. The wedding came and went. They moved 3 hours away for Elliot's job. Abigail started law school. I called weekly, listening for signs of discontent. Then came the February night when Abigail called at 2 a.m. "Mom," she whispered, her voice tight with pain. "I think I'm losing the baby." I didn't even know she was pregnant. "Elliot's driving me to the hospital," she continued. "Can you come, please?" Dave and I drove through a snowstorm to reach them, arriving just after dawn. We found Elliot in the waiting room, his face hollow with grief. "She's sleeping," he said. "They had to do a DNC. She lost a lot of blood." I sat beside him, not knowing what to say. "We were going to tell you this weekend," he continued, staring at his hands. "We had a whole announcement planned. She was so excited to tell you." When Abigail woke, I sat with her while she cried. Later, I went to find coffee and spotted Elliot in the hospital chapel, shoulders shaking silently. I sat beside him without speaking. After a while, he said, "I didn't know how much I wanted to be a father until tonight." The raw honesty in his voice cracked something in me. That evening, when Abigail was cleared to go home, I watched Elliot wrap her in his jacket, whisper something that made her smile despite everything, and carry her bags with such gentle attention that I suddenly saw what had been there all along. During the next week, I stayed to help while Abigail recovered. I witnessed their quiet rhythm together, how Elliot made her tea exactly how she liked it, how he read to her when she couldn't sleep, how they grieved together without blame. On my last night there, Elliot found me on the porch swing. "Thank you for being here for her," he said. "For both of you," I corrected. He looked surprised, then grateful. "I know I wasn't what you wanted for her." I was wrong, I admitted, the words surprisingly easy to say. "You're exactly what she needs." Well, 6 months later, when Abigail called to tell me she was pregnant again, I heard the mixture of hope and fear in her voice. "Mom, we're terrified, but Elliot says we can't let fear steal our joy." I thought about the man I'd finally seen clearly in that hospital. Not the tattooed boy I'd prejudged, but the husband who loved my daughter with a depth that matched my own. "He's right," I told her. And this time, we'll all be didn't want to like Elliot. When my daughter Abigail brought him home during her junior year of college, all I saw was trouble. Tattoo sleeves, motorcycle boots, and that easy charm that screamed heartbreak waiting to happen. My husband Dave warmed to him immediately. Men and their motorcycles. But I kept my distance. "Mom, please give him a chance," Abigail pleaded after that first awkward dinner. "He's studying engineering. The tattoos are just art." I said, "I'm just looking out for you." What I really meant was, you're too young to know what's good for you. For 2 years, I maintained what Dave called my polite frost. But I noticed things. How Elliot always washed dishes without being asked. How he looked at Abigail as if memorizing her words. Still, I refused to be won over by surface gestures. When they announced their engagement after graduation, I smiled tightly and said, "Congratulations." Thinking, too young, too soon, too different. The weekend before their wedding, I found myself alone with Elliot in our kitchen. Abigail and Dave were out picking up her dress. "Need help with dinner?" he asked, rolling up his sleeves. "I'm fine," I said, then unable to resist. "Tell me why I should believe you're good enough for her." He set down his glass. "I'm not," he said simply, "but I'll spend my life trying to be." I wanted to dismiss it as charm, but something in his voice stopped me. The wedding passed. They moved hours away for Elliot's job. Abigail started law school. I called weekly, listening for signs of trouble. Then, one February night, Abigail called at 2 a.m. "Mom," she whispered, voice tight with pain. "I think I'm losing the baby." I didn't even know she was pregnant. "Elliot's driving me to the hospital. Can you come, please?" Dave and I drove through a snowstorm. Arriving just after dawn, Elliot was in the waiting room, face hollow with grief. "She's sleeping," he said. They had to do a DNC. She lost a lot of blood. I sat beside him, lost in what to say. "We wanted to tell you this weekend," he continued, staring at his hands. "She was so excited to tell you." When Abigail woke, I sat with her as she cried. Later, I found Elliot in the hospital chapel, shoulders shaking silently. I sat beside him in silence. After a while, he said, "I didn't know how much I wanted to be a father until tonight." His raw honesty cracked something inside me. That evening, when Abigail was cleared to go home, I saw Elliot wrap her in his jacket, whisper something making her smile despite everything, carrying her bags with such gentle care. Suddenly, I saw the man beneath the tattoos, the husband my daughter needed. The next week, I stayed to help her recover. I witnessed their quiet rhythm, how Elliot made her tea just right, read to her at night, how they grieved without blame. On my last night, Elliot found me on the porch swing. "Thank you for being here for her," he said. "For both of you," I corrected. He looked surprised, then grateful. "I know I wasn't what you wanted for her," he admitted. "I was wrong," I said easily. "You're exactly what she needs." 6 months later, Abigail called. She was pregnant again. "Mom, we're terrified, but Elliot says we can't let fear steal our joy." I thought of the man I'd finally seen clearly, the one who loved my daughter deeply, matching my own love. "He's right," I told her, "and this time we'll all be there together." Story 2 on Christmas, my sister blocked me at the door. We don't want a plumber at dinner while my parents laughed from the table. When I opened my Christmas gift, I found a toy baby for the one without a family. I said nothing. But the best part was when my parents opened theirs and found their bills and debts. Remember, this plumber won't pay for anything anymore. My name is Owen. I'm 35, the oldest kid, the one who gets things done. I fix pipes for a living. People call me when their kitchen turns into a puddle, or when the water heater dies 20 minutes before guests arrive. My van smells like coffee and PVC cement. My knuckles are always scraped. I keep a notebook in the glove box with addresses, parts, and who still owes me $50 because they swore they'd Zelle later. In my family, I've always been background. My sister Ava is the golden one. She's 29, the creative. That's what my mom says when she explains why Ava doesn't have a steady job. Ava has followers. Ava has a ring light. Ava has a laugh that makes adults bend toward her like plants. My parents glow around her. Around me, they relax. You relax when the plumber arrives. You know the leak will stop. You don't clap for it. I'm not bitter about the work. I like knowing that what I do matters. I like the click when a fitting seat's right. I like making hot water appear. I don't like being the house wallet with legs. December rolled in quick that year. Salt on the roads. My phone buzzing with urgent and any chance. You can swing by. I stacked small boxes of chocolates clients gave me on my counter and told myself I'd bring them to Christmas dinner. We do Christmas Eve at my parents' place. Same roast, same playlist, same beige napkins my mom irons flat and then scolds us for wrinkling. I pulled up with a tray of baked ziti and out of habit my toolbox. My dad always finds a quick thing for me to fix. He calls it tradition. I call it free labor. The porch light hit me like a dentist lamp. I could see the tree through the front window and the streak of Ava's hair when she tossed her head back, laughing. I balanced the tray on my hip and reached for the handle. The door opened a crack. Ava filled the space. She took in the boots, with salt lines, the work jacket, the toolbox handle, and my fist. "We don't want a plumber at dinner," she said. Sweet, like she was giving a tip for next time. Behind her, my dad laughed from the table, mouthful. My mom's voice floated out. "Is that Owen? Tell him to leave the tools on the porch." Ava didn't blink. "You heard them." The tray dipped. I adjusted it. The porch light hummed somewhere. Wind chimes knocked around like teeth. I tried to smile. The kind where you pretend this is all a bit. "I brought ziti," I said. "Kitchen's full," she replied. "Just wipe your boots. The rug is new." She stepped back 2 in, just enough to make me slide sideways like a delivery guy. There was a flash of my reflection in the glass. Tired eyes, dust on the sleeve, the toolbox. I didn't sit down. Mom walked by with a stack of plates and didn't look up. Dad called. "Sink slow. After we eat, you can snake it." 5 minutes. I stood in the entry with the tray and the toolbox and the smell of cinnamon in my nose. I felt something shift. Not a snap. More like a switch finding a new position. I set the tray on the console table and kept my voice flat. "Okay," I said. 5 minutes after dinner." No one answered. Ava was already filming the tree. On her screen, I was a blur, a shape to slide around. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "From Mom, be nice tonight. Don't start." I put the toolbox by the door. It made a soft, heavy sound. I wiped my boots. I told myself to breathe. I told myself not to ruin Christmas. I told myself a lot of things while the house laughed without me. And I walked into the dining room anyway. If that little moment at the door seemed small, it wasn't small to me. It was a repeat. I've been pushed through half-open doors my whole life. When I was 12, Dad got laid off. "Temporary," he said. That became the family word. Temporary turned into months. I picked up a paper route. Mom took the cash and said we were a team. Ava was 6 and practicing cartwheels in the living room. She got the last apple because she's growing. I told myself I was growing too, just sideways. At 16, I fixed our toilet with a video and a borrowed wrench. Dad thumped the tank. "You've got a knack," he said, like I'd found a magic trick. After that, no one called a pro. They called me. We never paid labor again. We paid an Owen. Ava got into a private program for media arts after high school. Money was a problem immediately. "Loans are normal," Mom said. "Family helps," Dad added. Eyes on me. I was already apprenticing. $N an hour felt huge. I covered the deposit just to hold her spot. Then I bought the dorm bedding because we can't send her with nothing. Then the gap in tuition because it's only this once. It wasn't once, it was a drip. Drips fill a bucket if you ignore them. When Ava dropped out, not aligned with my purpose, her cost didn't drop. They rearranged into a different leak. New phone for content, new shoes for an event, new camera rental because my brand needs crisp. Somehow, my card was always the one that worked. I grew into my license, real jobs, real checks. I bought better tools. I started saying yes to emergency calls because they paid double. I began keeping a spreadsheet on my phone. Date amount, why? Promise back, yes, no. Received, no. I didn't add judgment to the rows. I added numbers. Numbers don't lie. They just sit there. Mom's way of asking for help changed over time. She stopped using words. She sent screenshots, a red past due stamp, the 3 dots. I was supposed to fill in the rest. When I didn't answer, "Fast," she called. "We shouldn't have to beg our own son." Dad texted, "Thought you cared about family." Aya sent a voice note that started with, "Hate to ask," and ended with, "You're a lifesaver. They train me like a dog. Buzz transfer. Good." Boy, there were humiliations I told myself were jokes. Easter, Mom introduced me to a cousin as our helper at a barbecue. Dad said, "Owen's not a real plumber. He just likes crawling in dirt." And everyone laughed, including me, because if I didn't laugh, I'd hear the quiet bang in my chest. Ava filmed me under the sink once and captioned it, "Gremlin." I commented a wrench emoji. She wrote back, "Don't be sensitive." I did my duty. I replaced their water heater. I put their internet on my card temporarily. I fixed the tub, the shower, diverter, the hose bib, the ice maker line. I took Dad to 2 appointments when he couldn't drive. I gave Mom gas money while calling it grocery cash so she wouldn't feel bad, but she never felt bad. She felt entitled. Last spring, they asked me to co-sign a personal loan to reset everything. I said, "No." Mom cried after all we did for you. Dad said, "You'll regret this." Ava texted, "Wow, cool. I sent a paragraph about budgets and cutting cable and cooking at home." No one replied. 2 days later, Mom sent a screenshot of the electric bill. By summer, I was doing more math than plumbing. I'd sit in the van between jobs and total the leaks. $114 for meds, $68 for internet, $560 for the car payment, $900 for Ava's opportunity course that would help her scale. I read about boundaries on my lunch break with my sandwich still in the wrapper. Words like inchment and parentification started to stick. My therapist asked me, "If you were a valve, where would you close?" I didn't know. Valves are for systems. Families are supposed to be different, but our family was a system. I was the pressure regulator. Then autumn hit and their ass got louder. Dad's shoulder started acting up. He missed work. Mom forgot to pay property taxes and it spiraled into fees. Ava's ring light broke and she couldn't create. The group text lit up with dates and due amounts like fireworks. I muted the thread and felt guilty for an hour, and then unmuted it and paid 2 bills in a row because the guilt was louder. There were also the little digs that kept the story in place. Don't be dramatic. Stop bringing up the past. You're lucky we let you do trade school. Not everyone gets supported. That one made me laugh because I pictured the spreadsheet. Supported is an interesting word when my name shows up in every memo line. 2 weeks before Christmas, Mom sent the rules for gifts. Limit $300. The next text was from Ava privately. "Can we talk? I need something special this year. Camera upgrade equals huge growth." I wrote not this year. I deleted it. I wrote we'll see. I hated that text the instant it left my phone. It wasn't yes. It wasn't no. It was the sound a valve makes when it vibrates because the pressure is wrong. The day before Christmas Eve, my phone rang while I was under a sink. "Dad, when you come tomorrow, bring the big auger," he said. "No." "Hello?" Drain slow. I said okay because the word lived in my mouth like a reflex. On Christmas Eve morning, I baked ziti and wiped the grease from my hands and picked up the toolbox like it was a part of me. I told myself it was easier to say yes to a slow drain than to the other asks I knew were coming. I told myself I was choosing peace. But peace bought with resentment isn't peace, it's debt. Which is how I ended up at their door with the tray and the toolbox, and Ava looking at me like a contractor who forgot to use the side entrance. "We don't want a plumber at dinner," she said, and my dad laughed. And my mom texted me to be nice, and something inside me finally found the switch my therapist had asked about. I didn't flip it then. Not yet. I walked in. I put the tray down. I sat. I ate. I watched Ava film. I smiled when Mom complained that the gravy was too thick, and Dad made his yearly joke about my fancy wrench. I hummed along to the playlist and tried not to turn the whole night into a fight. But you can't keep water from finding its level. It always does. After dinner, we did gifts. Mom loves a performance. Everyone sits in a circle. One person opens at a time while the rest watch and comment like judges. Ava had wrapped hers in glossy paper with velvet ribbon. Mine was a bag with tissue that shed glitter onto my jeans. "Open yours, honey," Mom said, eyes bright. Voice sugar with a seed in it. I pulled out tissue. Out came a plastic baby doll. Bald. Eyes too blue. A tiny bottle attached with a twist tie for the one without a family. Ava sang like a commercial jingle. Dad laughed. Mom tried to hide her smile and didn't. I looked at the baby. It looked back with painted surprise. My heart didn't pound. It went very, very quiet. That quiet wasn't numb. It was a clear room with a table in the middle and a single chair. I sat down in that room in my head. "Thank you," I said evenly. I set the doll on my lap. Ava pouted. "You could pretend to have a sense of humor." "I have one," I said. "It just isn't cruel." Max, Ava's on and off guy, held up his phone. "Do it again," he told her. "The line about the plumber." I missed it for the story. He laughed at his own sentence. He always laughs first. Mom clapped her hands. Okay, our turn." She slid 2 identical boxes toward me. "This is from us to you." I opened the first. Inside a sweater, 2 small tags still on, marked final sale. The second box held socks. Dad smirked. Practical. I nodded. Very. I reached behind my chair. Mine to you. I handed Mom and Dad each a flat package. Craft paper. No bows. Ava rolled her eyes. Minimalist. Of course. "Open them." I said they did. The paper tour. The lids came off. Inside, envelopes, not money, bills, car notices, electric, internet, pharmacy, property, tax laid, fees, each with a sticky note in my handwriting, date, amount I paid, confirmation, numbers, a cover sheet on top with totals by year. I had highlighted my name on every memo line, and autopay. Mom went still. Dad frowned like the print was too small. Ava lifted the edge of a stack and made a face. "This is weird," she said. "It's a record," I said. My voice stayed low. I didn't rush. 6 years, $51,480. That's the total in the corner. I kept receipts because that's how I am. I brought them so you can keep them. I won't be needing them anymore. Mom's voice came out thin. "Why would you bring this tonight?" "Because tonight you made me an other again," I said, glancing at the doll. "I wanted you to see who I've been the whole time." Dad snorted. "You want a medal for paying a few bills?" I met his eyes. "I want a boundary." Ava laughed, delighted. "Is this like an intervention for us?" She turned her phone on, so a tiny red dot looked at me. "No," I said, and I turned my head so the camera caught my ear. "It's an intervention for me." Dad's chair scraped. "Enough. Go snake the sink." "No," I said. The word didn't boom. It landed. The room heard it. Max looked up from his phone. Mom blinked. AA's smile froze. "No," Mom repeated, as if it were a foreign word. "No." I set the doll on the coffee table next to the stacks. "I'm not snaking the sink. I'm not paying the internet next week because the autopay was on my card. I'm not sending $300 for Ava's camera. I'm not co-signing anything. I'm done. I kept my hands flat on my knees. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. Silence." The tree clicked as a light warmed. Somewhere, the heat kicked on. I felt the room think. Mom found her voice first. "You're doing this to embarrass us." "I'm doing this to end something," I said. "You can call the utility company and set up a plan. You can cook at home. You can sell the extra SUV you don't need. You can call an actual plumber for the sink and pay him." Dad's face darkened. "We are your parents." "I know," I said quietly. "You are my parents. You are also my creditors. I let you be both. That's on me. It stops now. Ava folded her arms. So, you're just abandoning your family. I'm not abandoning anyone, I said. I'm refusing to fund adults who mock me while asking for my card, Max whispered to Ava. This is content. And she hissed, Shut up, which almost made me laugh. Mom pushed the boxes away like they might bite. You've always been so ungrateful. I looked at the stacks. Those papers say otherwise. Dad pointed at the hallway. Out. I stood. I didn't grab the toolbox yet. I slid my coat on. I looked around the room, whom I've spent decades fixing inside walls I didn't own. I picked up the plastic baby and set it carefully on top of the bills. For the one without a family, I said softly. Turns out that's not me. That was sharper than I meant. I breathed. I love you, I added. But love without respect is just debt. You don't get to keep spending me. Dad's mouth worked. He didn't find words. Mom made a small sound that lived between a sob and a curse. Ava lifted her chin like a dare. You'll be back, she said. I won't. I answered. Not like this. I walked to the door. My boots were heavy. I picked up the toolbox and then put it down. It belongs to people who hire me. It doesn't belong to people who think I'm a punchline. At the threshold, Mom whispered, You can't mean it. I do, I said. Merry Christmas. I stepped onto the porch. The cold got under my jacket and made everything feel clean. The door shut behind, me with the same neat click from earlier, but the sound wasn't the same. I stood there in the humming porch light and let the quiet reach me. Then I went home. The next morning, my phone looked like it had been in a fight. 41 missed calls overnight. By noon, 68. By evening, 103. Mom left 10 voicemails. They started with, Call me right now, and slid into sobbing silences. Dad texted in bursts. Grow up, pathetic. You didn't fix the sink. Ava sent a single line. Return the doll. I put the phone face down and made coffee. My apartment felt small, but mine. I wrote 3 things on a sticky note and put it on the microwave. 1, turn off their auto pays. 2, new number if needed. 3, Therapy Tuesday at 9:20 a.m. I answered. Mom, how could you do that? She said. Set a boundary? I asked. Humiliate us? She snapped. On Christmas, you humiliated me. I said, for years. She breathed hard. So you'll let us freeze the heat bill. You can call the utility. I said, they have plans. That's your job. She said, my job is plumbing. I said, click. At 10:02, Dad called. You think you're a man now? I think I'm done paying your bills. I said, you make more than us, then spend less than you. I said, he swore at me and hung up. Ava texted, send me $250 for groceries and I'll delete my post about you. I didn't. Respond. 10 minutes later, she posted anyway. A black square with white text. Some people are only useful until the money stops. Comments rolled in. Cousins I hadn't heard from in months popped up with so sorry, babe. I blocked her. She made another account. I blocked that too. I spent the afternoon cancelling what I had let become normal. I called the internet provider and removed my card. The rep said we can split it at the next cycle. No, I said gently. Remove it. I canceled the family phone line I had been stupid enough to add for a trial. I changed the streaming password. None of it felt like punishment. It felt like plugging. Leaks. I texted the family group once. I won't be responding to financial requests anymore. Emergencies that involve health or safety, call 911. If you need a plumber, hire one. Love, Owen. Then I muted the thread. They tried new angles. Aunt Joan called, your mother is devastated. I said, she'll recover. Uncle Tom wrote, family is all we have. I wrote back, respect is part of family. 3 old neighbors messaged me some version of, your parents helped you so much. I replied with numbers, 51,380. Screenshots of memo lines. Oh. 2 of them replied. Oh. The first week of January, Dad left me a voicemail that started, "You are dead to me," and ended, "Call me. I need the model number on the water heater." I didn't call. I filled the space with a life. I went on runs before sunrise on streets that smelled like cold metal. I kept a bag of salt in the van for old ladies with slick steps. I ate actual meals, and not just gas station sandwiches. I bought myself new work boots that didn't leak. The urge to fix didn't vanish. It came like muscle memory. A text tone would make my hand twitch toward the wallet. I'd say out loud in the van, at the sink, carrying pipe, "This isn't about revenge. This is about closure." The word steadied me like a stud in a wall. You can anchor into truth when it's solid. The call slowed. January had 84 missed. February. 39 to March 12th. In April, Mom texted, "We're selling the second car." I typed good, then deleted it and said nothing. In May, she wrote, "Thinking of you." I wrote back, "Me too." She didn't reply. That felt honest. There were bright moments that didn't require me to spend. Mrs. Alvarez from 2 blocks over slid. A jar of jam across my front stoop with a note. "Thank you for helping." When we flooded, I left her a thank you card and fixed her dripping hose bib for free, because kindness is not the same as enabling. I saw my dad at the hardware store in June. He nodded at me like I was a guy he used to work with. He bought the wrong size trap, and I didn't correct him. In the parking lot, he said, "The sink is still slow." I said, "Call a plumber." He looked at my van, and then at me, and said nothing. Ava kept posting through it. People sent me screenshots I didn't ask for. She called me the banker brother who cut us off, and a hater. She also did brand deals for protein bars, and a thrifted jacket labeled ethical. I stopped opening attachments. My block list grew. Little freedoms multiplied. I turned my phone off on Sundays. I took a day trip to the lake and watched families argue gently over sunscreen and laughed because that is normal. I replaced a bathroom fan in silence and realized no one was going to text me a screenshot while I was on the ladder. I slept well for the first time in years. In late summer, Mom asked for coffee. "Just coffee," she wrote. "No money talk." We picked a place with small cups and big windows. She was early. She held her mug like a prop. We talked about the weather. She said her back hurt. I said, "Mine too, sometimes from crawling under houses. Twice." She started to turn the talk. Twice I let the silence stay. She sighed. "I miss you," she said. "I miss you too." I said we can try this again if the respect stays. She nodded once. We kept it to 20 minutes. No hugging, no fight. A start. Dad didn't come. I don't know if he will. I can live with not knowing. By fall, my spreadsheet had new tabs. Savings for a better van, for time off, for a trip that isn't a getaway from someone else's crisis. The tab that used to track what I spent on them sits there like a lake that froze. I don't skate on it, I leave it. And when Christmas popped up again on the calendar, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not dread, not anger, space. Here is what my life looks like now, simple and mine. I wake up before the sun, make coffee, and open the day's jobs. I text customers, clear windows, show up when I say, and do clean work. I keep extra gloves in the van for cold hands and dog treats for suspicious terriers. I eat lunch at a small diner that knows my name. I read on my breaks. I block numbers that feel like old traps. I don't explain. I don't defend. Some nights, I think about knocking on my parents' door. I picture the porch light, the wind chime, the small click of the lock. Then I picture the doll on the table next to the stack of proofs. I don't want revenge. I want peace. Peace means not walking back into rooms where I am the joke and the wallet at the same time. Mom texts sometimes. We met twice more for coffee. Once she said, "I didn't realize how much we took." I said, "I didn't realize how much I gave." She nodded. She didn't ask for money. That was the whole conversation. Really? Dad hasn't called. Maybe he will when the water heater finally dies. Maybe he'll call a stranger and hand over a check and feel what it's like to pay for help. That would be good for him. Ava posted a story last week. Some people only love you when you're useful. She wrote over a selfie. Someone sent me the screenshot. I didn't open it. Love isn't usefulness, and money isn't love. I know that now in a way that lives in my bones. I don't measure my goodness in memos anymore. I measure it in how I talk to people, in how I talk to myself, and how quickly I pick up when a real emergency rings, and how easily I let a fake one roll to voicemail.